when is Dak getting done? When is Cee Dee getting done? When is Micah getting done? When is Mike McCarthy getting done? When? So when will we have some answers here, Stephen?
Well, those things take time, and we're talking about deals here. When you're talking about Cee Dee and Dak and, somebody like a Micah coming up. I mean, you're talking about two players that aren't quarterbacks that feel like they, ought to be a little bit like Jefferson, the top paid 9 quarterbacks in the league. And then, of course, you have Dak, who's obviously his resume speaks for itself. I think, he was second MVP voting last year. He's just had an extraordinary career here in Dallas. And, those things just take time when you're talking about the amount of money involved. And, of course, we're trying to a little bit play Houdini and how to keep all these guys around Dak and keep these players we were fortunate enough to draft. And, when you start stacking them up like that, it's a challenge. It's not that it's not doable, but you certainly got to, have some give and take if you want to do that. I know the Vikings there with Jefferson when they, made that inordinate deal at the receiver spot. They don't have one player on their team other than Jefferson making over $20 million. And, of course, we got a big one in Dak, and we got Diggs right there, and then you got Zach Martin and D-Law. And so we got a lot of guys making, quite a bit of money. And, it's no excuses. We think we can get this done. Know we can get it done, but it just takes time.
Are you confident, Stephen, that you can get Dak done? Because, as you know, he's in the last year of his contract. Mike McCarthy's in the last year of his contract. Those are the two most important positions in all of sports, really, a head football coach and his quarterback. They're both going into sort of lame duck years. And what happens if you can't get Dak done? Is there a deadline? Is he going to set it? Do you guys have a deadline to be set?
Well, the answer to that question is we are optimistic that we can get these guys done. I know Dak, our goal is to get him done. He knows that. We're having conversations and, with his agent, with Dak personally, both Jerry and myself. And he knows our goal is to keep him here. He also understands the challenges. And, you see, what happens to teams when you do have these high-priced quarterbacks. At some point, it's a challenge to keep everybody. Obviously, the Chiefs are an example of that, but they were able to, survive not keeping Tyreek Hill and, some other top players. I think they let, one of the top corners in the league go this year, after this season. So, you have to make some tough choices along the way, but we're optimistic that we can do that. And we'll continue to grind away on that. I know, between fans and media, that's your job is to ask when and can you and what happens if you don't. But, our eyes on the ball and in terms of getting these things done. And we're not thinking about what happens if you don't. We're trying to get the job done.
What's going on, everybody? Back-to-back content days, I guess, man. Stephen Jones did an interview on Scoop City podcast. Shout out to the host of Scoop City. I think that they're brand new, but they have some connections and they're going to be talking to a lot of executives and stuff like that. So it was a pretty good listen. And Stephen, when they asked him about Mike McCarthy, they asked him about Cee Dee, they asked him about Dak, they asked him about Micah. I thought it was just really, really funny that it's two things that I thought that were funny. It sounds like they're closer to closing in on Dak than they are Cee Dee. And what makes me believe that is they mentioned again that they're talking to Dak's folks. So normally when they're talking and there's back and forth, sounds like a deal is close, just listening to both sides. But when you hear him talk about Justin Jefferson's deal and how it was astronomical and Justin Jefferson doesn't have anybody else on the roster making $20 million, that let me know that that's an obstacle for them. And Stephen made that known to us. So you just kind of listen to keywords. And the second thing that I really heard was Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy, he zeroed in on the players. He zeroed in on Micah. He zeroed in on Cee Dee not being quarterbacks. Then he zeroed in specifically on Dak Prescott's deal. said nothing about Mike McCarthy other than this next segment where you talk about Mike McCarthy being able to keep guys fresh for a whole season. So he didn't talk about negotiations with Mike McCarthy, and that's alarming to me. The reason that that is alarming to me is not that they'll move on from Mike McCarthy, because we know they'll do it, and I know that quite frankly, with how some of the things have been done, I would rather them have moved on from him. But they're moving in that dangerous direction again of what they normally do when they're moving on from coaches, saying they're absolving themselves from any fault and saying, okay, we got the guys that are good enough. Now we're about to bring in the coach, and they're going to have to inherit our core guys. And that's where the Cowboys keep making their mistake in the front office. If you're going to have a new head coach, I personally believe from a philosophical standpoint that your head coach should decide who your core guys are, who are the guys that are going to carry out their core principles as a coach, who's going to carry out my identity as a coach. And that's how it should move forward. So sounds like they're going to try and sign everybody, which I didn't think was the case, but that's what it sounds like from Steven, and it sounds very, very optimistic when it comes to that. But it sounds like they could be doing the same thing that they had done with Wade, where Wade had to inherit Bill Parcells' core guys, and then Jason Garrett had to inherit what Wade left, and then lo and behold, Mike McCarthy had to inherit what the core was from Jason Garrett for the most part. So we'll see how that works out. But next segment.
For a while, 16 games was the norm. Last couple of years, it's 17. Eventually, it's going to go to 18. What are your personal thoughts and the Cowboys' thoughts on this 18-game season versus what the players are having to endure and put their body through right now?
Well, I think at the end of the day, it's a great point, Chase. I'm on the competition committee. We've talked about this, knowing that it's probably inevitable. It's certainly, I do know, at the end of the day, the players, enjoy the compensation that's coming their way, and they get, for the most part, half of every revenue dollar that comes through the door. And so certainly getting paid well. We all know when we go to 18 games, the revenue is going to jump, and certainly should only help in terms of the money available to pay players and, get players the compensation. I do think, to your point, Chase, is, whether you're a general manager, whether you're the head coach, whether you're a coach, there's going to be some strategy in terms of taking care of your players, in terms of, how you manage through your full 53-man roster, how many guys can be up and available. All those are just very, great questions in terms of, how you manage through a season if it ultimately goes to 18. Obviously, that has to be bargained with the union, and it'll be, a great conversation because no one wants to protect our players and have them up and healthy than the National Football League and the 32 individual teams. We all know at the end of the day, you want your best players up and healthy, playing for the championships when you get to the playoffs. And I think Coach McCarthy, our head coach, is one of the best at managing our team in terms of keeping them healthy, keeping them upright, keeping them feeling good as the season progresses. And it'll be something that we'll have to continue to manage. Certainly we have the technology this day and time to manage, pretty much every step they're taking from the time they come in the facility. We know, how much energy is going out and, how much their output is and what we need to do to keep them feeling good, having their body in the best possible way it can be. To manage them through the 18 games. And, if you're fortunate in the NFL, certainly the playoffs.
And I just want to touch on this part right quick because it sounds like Stephen Jones really just being a part of the competition committee pretty much confirmed that the 18-game schedule is going to happen. There's been talks about it, but it sounds like teams are gearing for it. And it sounds like Stephen might be using that as an advantage in these contract negotiations. So I think they know moving forward there will be the 18 games. So they're not so reluctant to lock in on these contracts with these players, knowing that it's coming down the line. So it sounds like he has an advantage there, and I think that that's probably one of the bigger bargaining chips that they're going to probably go back and forth with the agents on. But to me, I'm not a big fan of the 18 game schedule. Personally, I was fine with 16 games. I believe that the health is very, very important. And I know that Steven tried to talk about health and being part of the competition committee, but let's be 100, bro. You have stake in the team. You care more about your bottom line than you care about the health of these players. Because if y'all did, then there wouldn't be so many Thursday night games, and then you're adding games onto the schedule. So sounds like that's coming down the pipeline. And some of these contracts, some of these inflated contracts where it looks bigger than it is, it's going to be tied into the whole 18 game schedule thing. So just keep that in mind when you hear these contract numbers. But appreciate y'all for stopping by, man. Let me know what y'all think about the negotiations, about the contracts coming up, also about the 18 game schedule, man. I look forward to hearing from you guys in the comment section. And we out. Peace.
Turn the pressure up. I don't quit. I don't fold under pressure. I'm the best, and I know I'm the best. And you know I'm the best.